I'm Mohammed Al-Ansari, and I'm a developer advocate at Google Workspace. Are you trying to decide between AppScript and HTTP endpoints for building your Google Workspace add-on or Google Chat app? Why is it important to decide before you even start developing? In this video, we'll break down the key differences between the two options to help you make the right choice. Throughout this video, we will assume the solution you want to build is a Google Workspace add-on, unless we mention another type of solution. Let's start by taking a look at AppScript. Google AppScript is a cloud-based scripting language for lightweight development within the Google Workspace ecosystem. It's based on JavaScript, a language familiar to many developers. The key thing about AppScript is that your scripts are saved to Google Drive, and the code runs directly on Google servers. This tight integration provides a significant advantage, offering more than 30 built-in services for interacting with user data, other Google systems, and external systems. It's also known for its ease of use, allowing you to build add-ons and automate tasks with relatively minimal setup. With AppScript, you essentially are working within the Google environment, taking advantage of its built-in services and features, which makes it very convenient for various automation and add-on projects. Now let's explore the alternative, HTTP endpoints. Unlike AppScript, using HTTP endpoints means you have complete control over your development and deployment environment, allowing you to use your preferred programming language, frameworks, and hosting solutions, such as Cloud Run or your own servers. This approach offers a lot of flexibility. When using HTTP endpoints, your add-on communicates with Google Workspace services via a publicly accessible HTTP endpoint, using JSON for all requests and responses. This means that when a user interacts with your add-on, Google sends a JSON payload to your endpoint, and your endpoint sends a JSON payload back to Google. Next, we will compare the two approaches to each other. When it comes to development and hosting, Google Workspace integration and authorization, and testing and debugging. Let's start by comparing the development and hosting environments. With AppScript, development takes place directly within the AppScript editor, which is a cloud-based IDE built into Google Workspace. If you require a distributed version control system like Git, you will need to use a tool like Clasp to manage your scripts outside the AppScript environment. Clasp is an open source tool that lets you develop and manage AppScript projects from your terminal rather than the AppScript editor. Your code runs on Google servers, requiring no setup of external infrastructure. You will want to take into account that AppScript typically involves higher latency than some other serving options. While you can use AppScript libraries, you can't use JavaScript packages through a software registry like NPM. AppScript also has quota limits for the execution time and the number of calls you can make to Google services. On the other hand, HTTP endpoints offer complete flexibility, allowing you to develop in any IDE using your preferred programming language and hosting your add-on on the infrastructure of your choice. This means you need to manage your own server, whether that's using a platform like Google Cloud or setting up your own servers. When using HTTP endpoints, you also have the ability to implement robust CI/CD pipelines, which lets you, as an example, automate the testing and deployment of new features with every code change. With HTTP endpoints, you also have the ability to use a distributed version control system like Git, allowing for collaborative development with features like branching and merging. You can also use specific features supported by your runtime, including the ability to do asynchronous calls and parallel processing. Lastly, HTTP endpoints allow you to leverage a wide array of open source packages, giving you access to well-tested and established libraries, and enabling you to extend the functionality of your application with ease. Next, Let's look at Google Workspace integration and authorization. AppScript provides ways for your script to access data on Google and external systems. It offers built-in services that allow you to directly access and manipulate Google Workspace data and features. For example, you can easily read data from a Google Sheet or insert text into a Google Doc. When using AppScript, you can take advantage of advanced services, which are essentially thin wrappers around certain public Google APIs with less setup than using their HTTP interfaces. AppScript projects use Google's OAuth 2.0 system and requires users to authorize the add-on upon installation or first use. The system ensures that the add-on only gains access to the Google Workspace data that it requires to function. When connecting to third-party services, AppScript handles much of the OAuth flow, using AppScript's OAuth library, simplifying authentication processes. AppScript offers a properties service that allows you to store values that can be reused later on, even across user sessions. This can be handy for storing user preferences or document properties, and can be useful when doing OAuth to store access tokens, for example. With HTTP endpoints, your solution interacts with Google systems via API calls and JSON payloads. You do not have direct access to the Google Workspace APIs without making explicit calls to the API with authorization credentials, or the use of our SDKs if supported by your runtime. With HTTP endpoints, you are responsible for implementing your own authorization and security mechanisms. This means you must manually set up third-party OAuth flows, handle tokens, and secure your endpoints to protect user data. Finally, let's compare the testing and debugging. When using AppScript, you can make test deployments which enable you to test your add-on in the host application it extends, like Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, or Forms. This allows you to verify functionality and appearance directly in the context of the Google Workspace application. You can let other users test the add-on by sharing the AppScript project with their account by giving them edit access. The AppScript IDE offers a built-in debugger with breakpoints to help you step through your code, inspect variables, and understand the flow of execution. AppScript add-ons log errors to Cloud Logs Explorer, providing detailed error messages to aid troubleshooting. You can query these logs to understand if users are encountering errors, how frequently they occur, and read the descriptive messages to fix them. HTTP endpoints add-on can be debugged in both local and remote environments. For testing changes in a local environment, you need to set up a local server using a tool like ngrok to expose it, configure an IDE debugger, and then trigger the add-on in a Google Workspace application. For remote debugging, you can deploy the add-on, establish an SSH tunnel to the remote environment, and then set up a remote debug session in your IDE. You can use an IDE like Visual Studio Code with its default debugging features to set breakpoints, inspect variables, and step through code execution when debugging an HTTP add-on. Now, how about a little quiz? I'm going to describe a Google Workspace add-on, and you guess if it would be best to build it using AppScript or HTTP endpoints. You are building an internal add-on that lets you preview links in Google Docs from your CRM system by calling APIs offered by the CRM vendor. To preview links, users interact with smart chips and cards. This add-on will be used multiple times a week by yourself and your 4 colleagues. So what do you say? Would you build this solution with AppScript or HTTP endpoints? I would recommend you build this Google Workspace add-on using AppScript for the following reasons. Using AppScript for this solution makes interacting with Google Docs, OAuth flow for the third-party services, and using the card service to create cards the more straightforward approach. What's more, the add-on won't be in constant use, and the user base is very small. So again, AppScript is a good pick. Second quiz. You are building a Google chat app that lets its users interact with the AI model you trained and deployed on Vertex AI. You are looking for a low latency solution, which you will publish to the Google Workspace marketplace. The goal is to have your chat app be a trusted assistant to hundreds of thousands of Google Workspace customers who choose to install your app. How do you decide? AppScript or HTTP endpoints? I would recommend you build this Google Chat app using HTTP endpoints for the following main reasons. You're looking for low latency, and the app will be frequently used by hundreds of thousands of users, meaning performance is key. In summary, AppScript offers a simpler and more integrated development experience using JavaScript within Google's infrastructure, while HTTP endpoints offer great flexibility and customization by allowing the use of any language and hosting infrastructure, but requires a higher level of expertise and more manual setup. Please let us know in the comments section below which of those two options will you be choosing for your next Google Workspace solution. If you want to stay up to date with all things Google Workspace development related, hit that subscribe button.